Hi, everyone. It looks like most people have logged in, so we'll get going here. My name is Diana Everline. I'm the VP of Marketing at SōRSE Technology, the leading water-soluble emulsion technology for infusing functional ingredients in foods, beverages, and why you're here today, personal care products. Some of you have attended our webinars, over the past year or so, but this is our first webinar focused specifically on personal care products. It's also the debut of our 7.5% CBD emulsion designed for skin, hair, and oral care. When it came to creating a CBD emulsion solution for topicals, we needed to solve one of the biggest challenges with formulating an infused product. We needed to achieve seamless integration, and it needed to do that in the production stage so it didn't disrupt or complicate the product developer's process. So we went to our go-to, and now your go-to for all things production, and that's our operations manager, Zach Hershberger. He's been with our ops team for nearly 4 years, but worked in production for years before that as well. He even goes on the road training clients and assisting with their first production run so they're confident about the product that they're putting on the shelf. He's definitely the person you want behind your product and working with your team. But before I kick it over to Zach, a couple rules of engagement here, if you will. This webinar will be recorded and sent out following the presentation. So everyone who has registered for this today will get a copy of this. So no need to take screenshots or anything like that. There will also be a live demo of our 7.5 SōRSE CBD solution at the end of the presentation. So be sure to stick around for that part. And then to be most efficient with our time and to make sure we cover everything, we ask that you submit your questions via the chat box to be addressed at the end during the Q&A portion of the presentation. Any questions we don't get to during the Q&A, we will follow up via email, and perhaps they will also be a feature in one of our future Powered by SōRSE webinars. On that note, Zach, I'll let you take it from here.
Okay. So, hey, everyone. My name is Zach. As Diana said, I've been with the company for quite a while and seen us go through some big changes and get to where we're at today. So let's just get into it. So first of all, kind of what do we do at SōRSE? We're the leading water-soluble emulsion tech, and we just really offer solutions for issues that people have on the production floor, issues that consumers have with products, really kind of start to finish. We like to think of the whole path that a product takes to go to market, and then also when it's on the market. We convert oil-based ingredients into our SōRSE technology, our proprietary formulation and products. And SōRSE is our water-soluble emulsion. It seamlessly integrates, as Diana said, into many different product formats. And we're going to specifically talk today about a new product offering and its inclusion into products like personal care products specifically. But other than that, we also are very well known for going into beverages and food and also medical applications. So we're going to start off by doing a quick poll. We're going to ask you guys a question so that we can better understand where you guys are at in the process, why you might be logging on today. We can address concerns specific to how we're all feeling. So if you guys don't mind taking a look at that poll and selecting one of the following of which type of product would you like to see CBD involved in. Just give you a few seconds to answer that one. All right, let's see what we ended up with. Apologies, one moment. And okay, it looks like, okay, most popular one, topical skincare. That's to be expected, but also, a good portion of you guys interested in hair care, oral care, and other. I'm curious to hear what the other category consists of. So, all right, we got one more poll to go through here. So we'll see another. Yep, here we go. What stage are you in developing your product? Now, these are pretty broad categories, but I'd like you guys to take a look at them, see what is kind of most appropriate to tell us where you're at right now, and then we'll kind of gear the presentation towards those areas. Give it a few more seconds. All right, let's see what we have for answers there. All right, great. A pretty good mix, and a pretty solid amount of people who are currently in formulation, and that might be, actively looking into CBD solutions. It might be formulating, a base product or an idea of what you guys would like to see. So that's really good information for us to go off of. Like I said, we'll try to gear the presentation kind of towards you guys and answer questions involving that. Let's keep going here. So, we found a little bit out about why we're here already, but I mean, we all know that CBD is huge. It is a massive market, and it's only growing due to CBD just being mostly it's just a multifunctional ingredient. It can be used for many different afflictions, ailments, things like that. People will claim that it helps with just about anything on the planet. And obviously there's research coming out every day that kind of can support these claims. But it's also a good for you ingredient. It's something that is not only a recreational product, it can be part of a health and wellness routine, similar to vitamins, antioxidants, stuff like that. It's also a natural product. It comes out of the ground, and everything that happens down the line is either a refinement or an adjustment of it, but it does not change the fact that CBD is being derived from hemp. This is something that has massive appeal to people who would like to use products that have a natural feel to them. So the CBD market has a lot going on with it. Obviously, we've seen a lot of products come out. I think mainly gummies and capsules seem to be the most common kind of baseline products. Those are kind of the entry level, get something out there, and somebody who's curious for CBD might reach for those initially. But also we're seeing, and I think SōRSE is fueling a massive industry of CBD beverages that have been coming out too, and that's kind of where we, obviously where SōRSE technology cut our teeth, was getting beverages out there that worked flawlessly, which is something that hadn't really been seen before. So we're trying to now do that in other areas. And so when you ask the question of how do you differentiate your brand, the answer to that is to focus on the active ingredient. You have to treat your active ingredient with the utmost respect, or else the ingredient that people are paying for in the product is just not going to work as intended. So, the packaging, Instagram accounts, marketing, they might get somebody in the door, but what you really want is somebody to come back to your product. They want to have a good experience with it and come back to it time and time again. So that's really what we're trying to build here. So let's ask ourselves, what is considered a personal care product? Obviously there's many, and you guys already, answered the question of what areas you are interested in, but personal care products can include skin care, hair care, oral care. Really, it's you're trying to solve a problem for the consumer. So their desired result is going to affect the product that you're going to make. And most personal care products are built to fulfill a purpose or solve a problem for the consumer. So what is a consumer looking for in an infused product? They're looking for easy, accurate dosing. In most instances for personal care, they're looking for a localized treatment. and something that they can apply directly and basically can be integrated into their daily activity without having to sacrifice, comfort or an unwanted texture or things like that. And it's also got to obviously have enjoyable sensory attributes. So that's not just the feel of a product. That is the smell, the taste, the texture, everything that has to do with the experience of using that product can be looped into that bullet point right there. And in this presentation, we're going to go through a lot of those attributes and kind of the upsides of water solubles and kind of the alternative methods of manufacturing CBD topicals and how they can compare in sensory attribute wise. So we've already seen that people are comfortable with CBD personal care product applications. It's not to say that every personal care product that has CBD out there is a home run. I'm sure there are a lot of products that fall short of something that somebody wants to use every day. But by and large, CBD is a product that is sought after, and as long as it's included in a familiar product form that the customer is used to using already, they have a high likelihood of trying it if it's say an alternative to something that they already use, but a version that has CBD in it. So when making a personal care product, you have a couple of options in actually building it and producing it. The first option is to use a CBD oil. Now that can be that's a very wide range of possibilities. There's a lot of different materials, and unfortunately, the industry doesn't have a very good way of describing the differences between, say, a broad spectrum and a full spectrum oil, or an isolate is a little more simple to conceptualize, but it's a very, very wide range that we're talking about when incorporating oil. That includes a lot of variability. Another alternative, which we're going to offer you here, is a water-soluble technology, which we're going to go through the pros and cons of both of those. But as we go through it, keep in mind these 4 priorities of the consumer. If it doesn't look good, they won't notice it. If it doesn't smell good, they won't apply it. If it doesn't feel good, they'll take it off. And if it's not easy to use and consistent, they're not going to buy it again. So before we get into pros and cons, let's just give a little overview of what a water-soluble emulsion is. Essentially, it's a transformation, dispersion of small droplets of one liquid into another of which it's not soluble. So it's mixing oil and vinegar, or it's mixing 2 incompatible ingredients in a way that makes them compatible, easily usable, and something that you can trust to stay homogeneous over time. As you guys know, you can't shake up the bottle of oil and vinegar and expect it to remain consistent over time. It's going to oil out, and that's something that is a massive problem if that's happening in your product, especially with the ingredient that people are buying it for. If your CBD is all floated to the top or crystallized out or something that's unexpected, it's going to massively affect the consumer's experience when using that product and how much they can trust it. So water soluble or emulsion technology rather is really not anything new. It's being applied here to a new industry, but really tricky ingredients are emulsified by flavor companies and ingredient manufacturers all the time. And this is for ease of use of product developers and just to solve the problems that I was just touching on there. so it's not anything new. It's something that people are familiar with, and it solves a ton of problems. Some of those affect the producer of the product, and some of them impact the consumer. Obviously, there's an overlap between those as well. So a benefit of using the water soluble is really that you eliminate the downsides of using the oil. So going through those real quickly, for the consumer on their side, like I was saying, any separation of the product or inconsistencies within the bottle that they purchase or the jar that they purchase is going to lead to inaccurate dosing and potentially a very stark visual issue with the product. You know, if your product is separating and it's in a jar that, you know, a customer that just spent $50 on that jar, they might not even get to use it if they see signs of separation. So that's one massive issue. And another one would be a cannabis aroma, or a hemp aroma, which is also a massive problem, mainly because of what I was touching on earlier with the oils being such a wide range of different products that you can purchase. Even if you're going through the same supplier, you can see variability in the aromas and the potencies and things like that of products that you purchase from the same supplier. So, you know, you might be looking at inconsistencies from lot to lot in your production. And the last one for the consumer would be oily residues on the skin. And this can be seen with a lot of products that are currently on the market. Just in basically the consumer experience is that they apply something that might, you know, feel nice at first, but then over time that the ingredients in that product may be, you know, absorbed into the skin or will dry at different rates. And a lot of times will leave behind an unpleasant residue, which can feel weird if it's something that is underneath your clothes, or it can also be an issue with staining clothes. So that's a big drawback. That's not a seamless integration into your consumer's daily life when they have to worry about things like that. And the downsides for the producer, and this is more my side, I gotta be honest, I'm going to spend much more time going over the producer downsides because that is my background and kind of why we developed this seamless integration here. So for the producer, if using an oil, that oil must be incorporated earlier in the production process. And there's special equipment and production steps that are necessary to make sure that that oil remains properly dispersed in your product. An oil is also not going to be compatible with a lot of different product formats. So it really, not only is it going to be harder to make the product, but it's also going to limit the types of products that you can make. So, and we'll talk more about that, I think, a little bit at the end after the demo and everything. But when using a water-soluble CBD, it really simplifies your life. It's just as simple as removing water and replacing it with water-soluble emulsion. That's really all that has to be done for formulation. You can treat water-soluble emulsion as if it were water, and you know, if you look at most personal care products, you know, there are a few that are not this way, that might be alcohol-based or things like that. But for the most part, if you read a label of a personal care product, the first ingredient is going to be water. So right there, you know that this is going to be compatible, barring any, you know, untested ingredient interactions and things like that. But it's going to be a very simple plug and play, remove some of that water, add water-soluble emulsion to make it work. And benefits for the consumer are that you improve the sensory, that's both consistency and you know, each time they use it, It will not have that cannabis scent to it, and it's going to be consistent time and time again. And you're going to have accurate dosing because this emulsion technology is going to remain dispersed. There's no chance of it oiling out or floating to the top as if in the oil and vinegar example. So benefits for the producer, again, more my passion here, is a seamless integration. I know we've said that a lot, but it is a one-step process that is, it doesn't involve a, 10-page SOP on how to do this and what temperatures does it need to reach, and then what equipment do you need to use to mix it, and then treat it after the fact. And a lot of topical suppliers may be used to doing things like that for their own product, but when asked to make a custom product that fits your needs, that can be a very, very labor-intensive trial and error process to figure out, which temperatures you need it at for incorporation. So our seamless integration is highly scalable, highly versatile. It's not something that you can expect to be different location to location. I mean, as an example, if you have one production location that has a certain brand of mixer, and then you're trying to, get another co-manufacturer started up, but they have a slightly different mixer, those might be two separate processes. So we really wanted to take all of that question away from building these processes and building these products so that our clients can focus on building the brand that they want and the product that they want with maximum consistency and without having to make sacrifices on any other of their product characteristics. So that's really what we were after and what we set out to solve. So we're going to talk about some specific ways that we can improve your products, touching a little bit more on sensory. You're not just selling a product, you're selling an entire experience, and you need something in your CBD supplier that is not going to interfere with other ingredients. So it needs to complement those. So like I said earlier in the presentation too, a topical, or not just a topical, but a personal care product is made to solve a problem in, I'd say, over 99% of cases. So if your problem requires a certain ingredient, then you better have that ingredient in your product. And if it's going to cause a problem to put cannabis or hemp oil into that product, it might require you to adjust your ingredient, or at least the loading level, or the way you treat it, and you're going to have to make sacrifices on your product's integrity. And so by the time you find something that is actually possible to produce and scale, it might be drastically different from the problem that you set out to solve. So our process is, again, just trying to keep you focused on the product that you want to make and be able to add CBD into it and not worry about, anything crazy or unexpected happening. And another big sensory aspect that we've touched on a little bit is the oily residue. That is completely eliminated when using an emulsion rather than a CBD oil. And the cannabis hemp sensory elements are also taken out of the picture. We deal with all of the supply chain issues on our side for a top of the line raw material, so that you don't have to call up these oil suppliers and find something that's going to fit your needs. We are going to be able to deliver something to you that is highly, highly consistent. And we're bringing all of the same infrastructure that we have in place for our beverage products into this sector as well. And I can tell you, over in the back of the lab over there is a top shelf team that is working super hard to just be the most consistent and, again, have no surprises by the time it gets to our clients. Another big thing that we're fixing here is we're solving the dosing problem. You know, when you use a CBD oil that is highly variable, if there is a difference in potency of that oil, say you develop your product to reach 1% CBD by weight, and you develop it using a oil that is 90% CBD. Well, what happens when your CBD supplier can only supply you something that's 85 or 80% CBD? Now, to reach the dosage level that's on your labels and everything, you need to be using more of that oil in there. And if you know anything about a topical or like emulsion systems, you'll know that balance is key. And you can't just adjust the loading level of an ingredient like that and expect everything else to remain the same. So you're essentially changing your formulation, and that should all be worked out in product development. That should not be happening when you are scaled. Again, we want something that's highly consistent. We want the same experience time and time again. And having to change your formulation based on the potency or the sensory aspects of a CBD oil that you source is unacceptable. Alternatively, our water-soluble emulsion, again, is going to come to you at the same percentage of CBD every time. It's going to be in a very tight range that's right above 7.5%, so that you can essentially take that off of your list of worries. You can sleep a little better at night knowing that the material that you're sourcing from us, your most expensive material likely, any way you cut it, if you're making a CBD product, the CBD is likely the most valuable ingredient in that product. And to have that behaving erratically, again, is unacceptable. So production process now. I said repeatable one-step process. So we're kind of going to get into how these products are made on the producer side. Most topical products primarily consist of water. You can read any ingredient statement to see if that is the case for something that you're interested in producing. And a water-soluble emulsion can replace water in that formulation to achieve the desired cannabinoid content. I mean, that's really the gist of it. Is if you need, if you need 5% of our emulsion in your product to reach your desired dosage level, you can add that in instead of 5% of water. And so that's all there is to it. And that will allow you to maintain your product integrity. Like I said, you will not have to sacrifice on other aspects of your product just to accommodate the CBD. And if something's easy to integrate, that means it's going to be easy to scale. You know, what we're suggesting to you here is a process that is compatible at any level of manufacturing. I mean, you're going to see in this demo, I'm going to make essentially, you know, what could be equated to 1 unit or so of product. And the process does not change when you go up to making 1,000 units of that product. So when you're starting out, depending on, you know, what your go-to-market strategy is, you can make things on the benchtop just in beakers and using a popsicle stick if you want. But then when it's time to really light things up, you can go to a co-manufacturer and you can basically say, hey, I have this super easy process. All you need to do is mix this and this and package it. And you're not asking them to, you know, heat anything or cool anything or high shear mix things or you know, there's no crazy equipment that anybody who does work with topicals will be they'll look at this and go like, yeah, this is no problem. So it's something that's familiar to co-mans, and that just makes you able to use, you have more options really. You can take it to anybody that you'd like. You can, get a better price for your packaging or your production, or if you want to open multiple locations as possible while maintaining consistency. It also offers you the ability to pivot. Like I said, whether you're mixing 1,000 milliliters or a 5-gallon bucket or a 55-gallon drum, you can make that change with little to no effort. I mean, it's something that you're already set up for. It's not going to behave in a different way when you scale up, which cannot be said for more labor-intensive production processes. So I have to, every time I see the title on this, I want to say like pro tip, but so here's a tip for us. When looking for a co-manufacturer, you want to find somebody who has produced or currently produces a similar product. So you need them to have experience in that field, and you don't, as a rule of thumb, you really don't want to be asking them to do anything that they haven't done before. It's a recipe for a mistake at some point, whether it be in the first run or down the road. So you want it to be something that's very familiar to them. You also want, obviously something that's close to your target market, or, if you have a fulfillment center in a certain area, you want to be able to have your manufacturing facility close to that fulfillment center so that you're not shipping stuff all over the country back and forth, or the world. So a little word on versatility here. If you want to offer multiple SKUs, which has many benefits to it from a marketing perspective and a product perspective, and just a client service perspective, you don't want to have 10 different formulations or 10 different processes to make those different SKUs. It would be best if you could keep doing simple little modifications to achieve a different dosage level, or add a scent if you wanted to make a scented and an unscented version, or a male focused, female focused version, things like that. If you want to add other sensory modifiers, extra little things to differentiate your product line can be easily incorporated when you're using this simple process, and you're not necessarily building every product, every SKU that you make from the ground up. You can structure things so that you have a single base product that gets treated that you add different things to make those different SKUs. So you can achieve that, say 2 or 3 different dosage levels, a high strength and a low strength, using the same product base, rather than having to incorporate different levels of oil into those products. You're making 2 different products from the ground up at that point. So if you're able to make more SKUs, it just means that your company is all that more legitimate. You look better on the shelf. The customer feels like they can make a choice for what is appropriate for them, rather than just what's available. Pro tip, qualities to look for in a CBD emulsion supplier. You want a supplier, a person or an organization who has experience infusing other personal care products with CBD emulsion. And you want them to understand potency equations, formulations, how usage rates affect dosing, and lastly, what the effects are of packaging and formulation variables, expected shelf life, things like that. And I'll tell you, we have experience doing all kinds of this work. We developed many different products in preparation for this to confirm the ability to, make these simple modifications and the things that I've been talking about. And so we understand all of this. There's probably all the problems that you could encounter, we've probably already encountered and solved. And if we haven't, I'd be surprised, but we can certainly help you out. So really kind of starting to wrap up here, why SōRSE 7.5% emulsion? You can integrate it into your product, and we've tested this between 0 and 15% of a formulation. And granted, topicals can be variable. Obviously, the different ingredients used in different types of topicals or personal care products can be different. So everything should be tested in in your product, but we are very confident in the inclusion of our emulsion between 0 and 15%. Not to say it can't go higher, but that is sufficient to create a topical or a product that is 1% CBD by weight, which is a substantial, when you look at the other products on the market, 1% by weight is a pretty substantial dosage level. And anything underneath that can obviously also be accommodated for. We have a consistent, reliable viscosity. Even when you're making different dosages, there are ways to tweak your formulation that I'll show you in the demo, that you can launch 2 different products that are the exact same, have the same viscosity, but have 2 different potencies to them. This viscosity, you'll call it the viscosity issue, but it's not necessarily an issue. But when you're thinking about viscosity, one of the biggest things that can affect or limit your production will be your packaging requirements. Just as a heads up, a lot of airless pump bottles, for instance, some lotion packaging types will have viscosity requirements before they will start to leak. So you want to make sure that your viscosity is remaining the same. And when you're using SōRSE emulsion, your viscosity will be the same as when you developed it on the benchtop. So lastly, there's no heating or special equipment required for mixing a product when using the liquid emulsion. And finally, it's available in all different sizing options, kind of depending on what your needs are. We have, if you're going through us, you gain access to all of our experience, our network. If you're looking to get off the ground but don't know where to start, we can put you in the right direction and get you going quicker than you would anywhere else. And you can focus on making the product you want, as I said, rather than sacrificing and paying somebody to develop a product only to find out that it doesn't meet your original needs and you've had to make a concession in some area. All right. And so what do we know about CBD and CBD infused personal care products? They've been out for a long time. Different versions are out there. And some of them are pretty good. Some of them could definitely be better. And a simple improvement would be switching over to a water-soluble CBD emulsion rather than an oil, and that will just increase your stability. It will improve the sensory and dosing experience for the consumer, and it's going to be light years simpler for the producer. So whether you're bringing the production in-house or you are going to a third party, you're going to have a much easier time getting your product made the same way every time. And we just focus on the right active ingredient and don't make concessions in other areas. I think that's kind of the general take home here. So all right, so I want to give you guys a little demo of this production process. I'm going to do a mini production process, but I got to switch my screen. Hang on. Okay, cool. Uh-oh. All right, so I should be full screen now. I think somebody should probably tell me if I'm not. But I made a little sample kit here. Let's get this in the right area. That's perfect. All right, so here I've got two different little kits that we're going to use to make two different versions of the same topical. These are topical bases. This is a version of an anti-aging cream that we use. It smells really nice. It's got a really nice light feel to it. But you could substitute in any other topical base that you might want to make into this. And we're going to make a version of this that has 1% CBD, and then we're going to make a version of it that has 0.5% CBD. And I already pre-weighed out everything, but you guys can see the loading levels of everything here. So you can follow along with that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our 1% CBD dose, and this is the ratio of what you're looking at. So we're just going to add that right in. And hopefully you guys can see this pretty well. It is on top right now, but as you mix, and again, this can be done with a paddle mixer. It can be done with, something with a wipe blade would probably be best, so that you can ensure that the product on the side of the container is getting mixed in. But already we have a smooth consistency, and this might be better to show you. It's as consistent as it's going to get, just like that. I mean, that took what, like 10 seconds. So we now have a 1% CBD anti-aging cream from a base. Now to make our 0.5%, what I've done is prepared it has the same, the 1% used 13.3% of SōRSE emulsion. This one is using half of that of emulsion, and half of it is water. And again, these are both, get this in the view here, these are both going to go in. And in the same way, they get mixed up. And by using the combination of water and SōRSE, it maintains the same consistency. So the viscosity of both of these is the same, because we've taken the same base and added the same amount of fluid to both of them. And already we are at, like I said, the same consistency. It's a really nice kind of light cream. Yeah, it's it does a really good job of mixing in to any sort of base product. So you really, you're pretty limitless when it comes to production processes. So that's really it. I wanted to show you guys that, and yeah, also let you guys know that I am available to kind of answer any questions if you have specific questions, specific product formats that you are interested in getting into, wondering if we've tested anything like it, things like that. Let me know. You can reach out to me personally. I think my contact info is on the end here. So yeah, I think we've got a Q&A section here that we can move on to.
Yeah, Zach, thank you so much for the demo. I think that was really great for people to see you adding the same amount of liquid and using the same base to create two formulas with different potency levels, but yet have the same viscosity. So thank you for doing that. I think to piggyback off that, a good thing to review with everyone would be the steps that you would be using if you were using an oil versus a water-soluble solution. Those would be the steps that we're essentially eliminating by using the water-soluble.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, you saw, obviously the process that we just carried out here doesn't contain any like heating steps or anything, but essentially if you were using an oil, you'd have to do, like if you're familiar with the concept of tempering, it's used in chocolate or, in cooking a lot. It involves, what you'd have to do is you would have to take a small portion of your topical base. You would have to heat that to a certain temperature and heat your CBD to the same temperature. and then in most cases, you would high shear mix that small solution, and then you would add that to the rest of your base and heat that, and then mix all of that in before cooling it in a specific way so that it can set up right. So there's a lot of heating involved. You have very narrow ranges. If you're trying to target between 125 and 135 degrees Fahrenheit, it's going to be vastly different if you're doing it, in a beaker or a 5-gallon bucket or a 55-gallon drum. It's hard to control those things.
Right. I mean, what you just did in the demo looks like something even I could do, whereas what you just described is science and the equivalent to me trying to cook something for Thanksgiving. So I think I think one definitely is simpler than the other. We did get a number of questions coming in. I see more coming in, and to respect everyone's time, we only have about 12 minutes or so. So we'll get through as many questions as we can, but please continue to send those in. Any question that we don't get to during this presentation, we will follow up directly with you through your email address you used to register. And just a reminder for everyone, if you are interested in receiving a sample of the 7.5% emulsion for personal care products, feel free to shoot either me, Zach, or another one of the organizers a message on this platform, or you can also shoot an email over to info@sourcetech.com. And feel free to, of course, add any other questions you might have with that request, and we'll get Zach on it right away. To move it right along, though, we'll jump into some of these questions here, and yeah, we'll see how many we can get through in the next 11 minutes or so. We had a lot of questions early on when you were reviewing the base products. Can you explain what a base product is and where you would get one?
Yeah, sure. So there are tons of sources where you can get these base products. You can just a quick Google of something like whatever product say you want to make a lotion. You can look up like lotion base or like bulk lotion base, but we've already done all of this research too. You can kind of let us know what you're going into. We know of a lot of suppliers that are doing this type of stuff, and we've tested a lot of them as well. So yeah, definitely reach out, but yeah, they can be bought online. Plenty of manufacturers are making things like particularly what you could look for would be like a concentrate blank version of the thing that you are buying. And but in general, you're looking for something that fits all of your product characteristics that you want, but just doesn't contain CBD yet. And then that can be added, either at a separate co-man by the manufacturer. There are options there as well. I thought I had something else that I wanted to say. So base products, you should expect them to, as you add fluid, depending on how much fluid you are adding, they will drop slightly in viscosity. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, a lot of base products you can find are designed to accommodate more ingredients, such as water.
Right. No, that makes sense, and that's definitely something you want to keep an eye on, because you don't want, especially if you're switching from an oil to a water-soluble solution, you don't want your consumer to feel the difference with the viscosity levels and think that they got the wrong product or something's changed that's drastic or is impacting the potency. One thing I did also want to throw in too, for those that are new in the topical personal care space, or maybe they have a lifestyle brand that started with food and beverage and snacks and protein bars, and they're adding a topical, buying a base product and working with essentially a wheel that's already been created is very standard for the cosmetic and beauty industry. I read a stat that says 80% of most topicals on the market are actually produced by the same 3 suppliers, and that's L'Oreal, Procter & Gamble, and Revlon. So this is definitely a practice that is understood and expected in this space. So don't feel like you have to create your own emulsion, topical or formulation right off the bat. You can certainly add CBD to a base that exists and enhance the product based on your desired intent. So that's one thing I wanted to throw out there for those of you just entering this space. We did have a question, and I think this is one that's actually particularly good for you, Zach, because you've also worked on the food and bev side. Can you explain the difference between the 7.5% emulsion and our solutions for food and beverage?
Sure. And I mean, I guess there's not much of a difference. It's the same technology applied in a different way. We have the ability to boost the concentration of the active ingredient, basically because of its intended use. So it's a lot harder to balance an emulsion to function properly in a beverage because it is much less viscous, and it can have a high density if it has sugar in it. There's a lot of factors that we need to consider for that. But again, this is the same. It's the same. It has essentially the same ingredient list as our beverage and food emulsion. Although it's missing a couple of the items that are specific to the beverage formula. So it's just a little bit shorter of a list.
Okay, and speaking to that, you mentioned the concentration. I think that's a huge part of this due to the application of the emulsion. Can you explain or I guess demonstrate how concentrated they can make their product using the SōRSE emulsion?
Sure. Yeah. So I had said in the presentation that we've used it kind of between 0 and 15% without issues. And again, that's not to say that you can't go higher. It's just to say that if you choose to go higher, you know, it should be validated. But at 15%, I mean, the 1% CBD topical that I just mixed is within that range, 13.3%. Loading, and a 1% topical, to kind of put that in perspective for you, would be a 1 ounce jar, 30 milliliters, would contain 300 milligrams. So I mean, that's a small jar containing a very large dose of CBD, and most of the time with most products that we see on the market, the cost of that product is going to be, for the consumer, fairly unreasonable for such a small amount. So what we're finding is that based on what people want and what people are currently buying, 1% is quite high.
Okay.
And anything below 1% can be easily targeted.
Okay. So going off what you see the consumer wanting, and obviously you've kept an eye on the price point for that small amount, what are the other commonly found ingredients in topicals that would complement CBD, in terms of a formulation that someone might be reviewing, so that it is a product that's desirable to the consumer when they're looking at options on the shelf?
Sure. I mean, it's not like I'm not super, well versed in that. That's your job, isn't it, Diana? What are the buzziest ingredients? I don't know. I've seen by looking around, vitamin E, anti-aging ingredients, moisturizers, aloe, tea tree oil. There's a lot.
Yeah, and fun fact for everyone on this call. When Zach was working on this emulsion and a number of other formulations that we were trying out, I actually trusted him enough to try all of those samples and put them on my face, which is obviously still relatively intact. But Zach definitely knows more than he's alluding to in terms of complementary ingredients in topical and skincare products. Although I will agree with him, vitamin E, I mean, you see a lot of green tea. Tea tree oil is a really big one too. You'll see a lot of products currently on the market, whether it's a gummy or, a topical for that matter, that use products that have similar desired effects. So you see a lot of, gummies, for example, that have melatonin and CBD because they're generally going after the same desired effect, relaxing, calming sensation. So you'll see a lot of pairing of ingredients like that. So when you're looking at what you're creating for the consumer, definitely take a look at what you believe that your target consumer's desired effect is when they're taking that product. And then you can complement that with additional ingredients that will complement CBD, or CBD will complement them, either or. We have a few more minutes here, so we'll just get to probably one more question, but please continue sending in your questions and we will follow up with you directly after the webinar. We did also get a few requests for sample requests, so we'll be sure to follow up with you and confirm those as well. If you do want to request a sample of the 7.5% that Zach just demoed, please send us an email as well, or if you haven't already contacted us, shoot us an email at info@sourcetech.com and we will follow up with you to get that process started. Probably, you know, like I said, we have 2 minutes here. We've got a couple questions in here kind of asking about what you would personally like to see in the market. Michael Flemings, when he presents for us and talking about food and beverage, he often talks about the protein shakes and protein bars that he's looking for. In terms of personal care products, Zach, what would you like to see on the market that has CBD enhancing it?
Sure. So I actually personally use a CBD topical that, you know, thankfully I have access to, because, you know, we did all this work to develop this stuff, and this was kind of one of the things that came out of it. But I frequently use a muscle cream, like a 1% muscle cream for kind of post-workout, as well as just kind of injury management. I've had my fair share of injuries in the past, and every once in a while, you know, I'll get like a flared up ankle or something, and it helps massively. I mean, honest to God, you know, you put it on and you forget that there was an issue at all. So I'm a big believer in kind of local treatment of injuries or just pain management using CBD topically.
Right, absolutely. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because topicals are typically used for a local relief, and as opposed to, you know, it's targeting a specific thing you're looking to correct. Can you talk a little bit about how topicals are typically used and why, how the CBD being active in it is beneficial to, you know, what people are using those topicals for? Might have been worded a little bit better.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, no, you're right. Topicals are, you know, typically used for a local application of relief in a certain area. So this would be, you know, as opposed to taking CBD orally for a problem like a sprained ankle. You know, it can be effective, but I mean, you can imagine if you take 10 milligrams orally, it's going to be effective on your whole body. But if you apply 10 milligrams to your ankle, you're going to have those 10 milligrams working in that area. And so for that reason, I think that, you know, topicals are incredibly effective in specific use cases. If looking for a kind of general use, things that you're more getting into the realm of like transdermal patches, things like that, which this is not intended to be a, you know, a transdermal application. You know, we kind of, I would recommend oral use if that's the effect that you're looking for, is a generalized effect rather than a local effect. So definitely different in terms of how it can be used and how, you know, its intended uses. Yeah.
And I think this will probably be our last question, but I think it's an important one. It's different than a lot of other questions that we've seen. In terms of dry or powder-based personal care products like balms, cosmetics that are powder, the question is if we have a solution that would work for that, that isn't necessarily the 7.5%.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a great question. And yeah, we've been talking about our, you know, new product offering in this 7.5% liquid for topicals and things that kind of are, you know, in that sort of realm of products. But really, for if you wanted to make a bath bomb or a soak or something like that, that is a powder product, our powder formulation is already optimized for that use. So we have different options in our powder lineup. We have a standard spray dry powder, which is at a 10% concentration, which can be pressed into like a pill or a bath bomb type thing. We also have our agglomerated product line, which comes in 5% and 2.5% CBD. And those they present as a more granulated texture that would be appropriate for like an Epsom salts type product. So something that remains kind of powdered and flowable would be a perfect opportunity to use agglomerated powder. Anything that needs to be pressed or kept together, our standard spray dry powder will do that very well.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Zach, for answering all those questions. We definitely have more that will be sending your way to complete and make sure that everyone gets the answers to their questions. But thank you so much for your time, and thank you everyone who joined us today. We hope that you come to another webinar in the future, and we look forward to following up with you on your questions and sample requests. Thanks so much. Everyone have a wonderful day.
Thanks, guys. See ya.